What you're looking at is crime data from New York City for misdemeanor crimes for the past week. We're going to focus on misdemeanor possession, but we're also going to look at the entire table because we want to compare certain data points to the overall category of data. This will come through as we look at things like proportion, ratio, statistics that are more like comparisons within a group of a set of data. What we're going to do here is learn how to use Excel to facilitate the process of calculating statistics. This is a data set that's provided for us. In some cases, we may collect the data ourselves and then manipulate the numbers in order to produce statistics. You have here chronology. So we're looking at 2000 through 2012. And with chronology, you can get a sense of how to compare across time periods. To get started, we might want to calculate the mean of this statistic. So the mean would say, on average, how many possessions of stolen property were reported between 2000 and 2012. To use Excel to do this, their word is average, so you will type equals average, and then between parentheses, you will select all of the cells for the given time period and enter. So what we see here is that on average, 1,900 stolen property crimes were reported during this week period. When you get a number that has many, many decimals, you can use the button here to increase decimals or the one to decrease decimals in your formatting. So you can include some decimals or get rid of decimals completely by having 0 decimals. This is formatted as a number automatically, as you can see here. If your number is not coming up as a number for any given reason, you can select from the formatting options to turn it into a number. And numbers usually by default have 2 decimal points, and like I said, you can get rid of them if you need to. Another measure of central tendency that you will often calculate or look for is the median. With Excel, median is actually what we are used to calling it. So again, you would type in equals median, open parentheses, select all of the cells, close the parentheses, enter, and you have your number for you. So the median of stolen property reports was 1850 during this period. And lastly, the other central tendency measure that we often use is the mode. So you want to do equal mode, open parentheses, select the cells, close the parentheses, enter. We see that we get an NA, and we can then look at the data. And basically, you got an NA because there are no numbers that repeat themselves. If I were to change this number here, we're just going to explore for a second, to 1827, you suddenly see that there's a duplication of 1827, therefore we get an actual mode. I'm going to undo that because that's not the real data. So in reporting about this data, what you would say is that there is no mode that can be calculated from the data set. Now, rate of change is one of the statistics that I will often ask for in our assignments. And rate of change, if we look at our basic statistics lecture notes, is calculated as equals new minus old over old. So to do that, if we're looking at, let's say, 2000 and 2010, we will do equals, open parentheses, this is the new value, 2010, minus 2000, which is the old value, close parentheses, divide, and then select the old value again, 2000, enter. So the rate of change was 1.08. This can be interpreted better when we make the rate of change a percent. So to do this, we would do basically the same thing where we say equals, open parentheses, new minus old, close parentheses, divided by old. And then that entire thing we want to multiply by 100. Mathematically, you always want to consider of where you're placing your numbers for calculation. So really, to multiply by 100, we want to multiply the numerator, not the denominator. So it wouldn't be best to put the times 100 down here in the denominator. Another thing that you can do is put the entire calculation of the rate of change within parentheses and then multiply that by 100. So one way we can look at it is like this. When we see that this turns into 109%, basically, when we reduce the number of decimals, what we can interpret is that at 2010, the number of stolen property incidents had increased by 109%. That means that it almost doubled. And that is how we can interpret. When you're in Excel, you want to be careful about using the percent here that formats, because what it will do is it will take a number and multiply it by 100 for you. So if we select the rate of change that we did not multiply by 100 and we add a percentage formatting, then that will automatically multiply that calculation by 100 and include the percentage sign. When you're just doing the straight math and not just using formatting, then you want to do the multiplying by 100 yourself. Okay, another easy formula to use within Excel that you will often come across is sum. So the sum basically means that you add up a bunch of things. This comes in handy when you want to look at the total number of stolen property or the total number of misdemeanors. This table, if you scroll down, gives us the total number of misdemeanors right here. Just for testing, let's just attempt to sum. So the calculation is equal SUM, open parentheses, and then you're going to select all of the values that you want to add up. In this case, I'm selecting all of the misdemeanors for 2000. I then close the parentheses and hit enter. And this is just hiding a little bit. So we see that our number is 435405. If we scroll down here, we see the number is 435405. So Excel did add this up correctly. You can also sum across, so if you're interested in saying how many total offenses were reported between, the stolen property offenses were reported between 2000 and 2012, you can select those cells and you get a total of 24970. Why might you be interested in this sum? Well, let's say that you are interested in seeing what proportion of stolen property offenses were reported in 2005. What you might want to do is say, for this, the proportion would be this number, 2005, to 24970. And if we look at our formulas on how to calculate proportion, it would be the one value divided by the sum of all values within a category. So this is equals 2005, 18, divided by the sum, and this is the proportion. That means for 2005, 0.07 stolen property offenses were reported. You could, if you wanted to, do this as a percent. So let's say you want to say what percent of stolen property offenses were reported for 2005 across all incidents of stolen property offenses between 2000 and 2012. You basically would take this one calculation that has already been done for you, multiply it by 100, and you would say 7.3% of the stolen property offenses were reported in the year of 2005 for all incidents between 2000 and 2012. This is becoming a lot more complicated, but this is how you want to be able to look at given numbers. Numbers are a total in themselves, but then they can also be a part of something. So these incidents in 2005 are part of all misdemeanors in 2005, which would then we would compare at the proportion of equals property offenses within all offenses. And we want to format this to see more decimals. And you see that 1.01 is the proportion, which if we turn into a percent by formatting it into a percent, then we're saying 1% of all of the misdemeanor offenses in 2005 were stolen property offenses. Another thing that you could do is a ratio. So a ratio is a comparison within a category between two values. So we could say that in 2000, the ratio of 2000 to 2010 incidents is 1072 to 2240. So one way we could explain this is 1072, and we can use the semicolon. Oops, escape. We do 1072 semicolon 2240. And that is a ratio. You can report a ratio such as this. Max and min are two calculations that you might end up using, and they are also beneficial for you when you're calculating a range. So a max gives you the highest value within a set of values, and then the min gives you the lowest value within a set. To calculate max, what you want to do is equal, and you're going to type in the word max, open a parentheses, highlight your values, in this case, all of the stolen property offenses, close the parentheses, and hit enter. What this tells us is that 2,853 is the highest reported number of stolen property offenses within the period of 2000 and 2012. We do the same for the min, type in equals, min, open the parentheses, select your cells, close the parentheses, enter, and then our minimum is 1072. So that means that 1072 is the lowest number of stolen property offenses reported during the period of 2000 and 2012. So another way that we can look at this is say the highest number of stolen property offenses was reported in the year of 2011 when we look back 12 years. The lowest number of incidents was reported in 2000 when we look back 12 years. Now, these are values that we can use to calculate a range. A range is basically the difference between the maximum number and the minimum number reported within a given data set. So for range, you can basically say equals, and now that you have your max and min, you can select your max, which has been calculated for you, minus your min, which has also been calculated for you. So the total range is 1781. These are just some of the basic calculations that you will be conducting throughout the term. You want to regularly visit how to calculate these when you are stuck, and always feel free to reach out in the Q&A forum with questions about how to use Excel for calculating. Once you get these kinds of calculations, you want to place them into a table so that the reader can more easily understand what you are referring to. One last note. These totals here are also translatable into frequencies and can also be translated into rates automatically. So a frequency is the total number of cases within X. And so we can say the total number of stolen property offenses within 2000 for the week was 1072. It's a rate because it happened within a week. So you could say 1072 incidents per week. Or if it's a population rate, you could say it's 1072 incidents in a population of 8 million. As you start to calculate your own statistics using Excel, feel free to reach out using the Q&A forum with any questions you might have about Excel as the platform or how to do a certain calculation.